Dave.
Hey, how you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm super excited about today's show. I can't tell you how excited I am.
Today is dope. Yes. Today I'm excited too. Um, yes. My daughter, her ears, my kids don't give a shit about what I do and what I'm doing. It's more like, when's lunch? What are we having for dinner? But she heard who I said who was our guest, and her ears
Yeah.
perked up because she's a
I,
guitar player. So she was like, "Wait, what?" And I was like, "Yeah,
I'm
back
not
up."
going to lie, Nicole. I contacted everyone I knew in high school who's a fan, and it said,
Oh,
"Look
you
at his
did?
assholes." Completely rubbed it in everybody's face. 100%. For
You're
all you
so
people who
funny.
said I wasn't going to ever meet anybody famous, watch this. And so it went from you, Nicole, to all of a sudden our guest, which is going to be awesome.
So good. So good. Um, well, I don't know if you've ever heard of this program. I watched this guy. His name's Ricky. He grew up with like a single mom, and I guess apparently, like, they struggled. Listen, being a single mom is no easy task. And I guess his shoes wore out. He had really like huge holes in his shoes. His shoes were falling apart, and he went somewhere, and someone said, "Let me give you, like, let's change your shoes out." And he grew up to be this amazing soul. I'm sure he was born an amazing soul, but anyways, he's showing the world, and he started this thing called HavASole. It's HavASole. HavASole. And LA Rams have partnered up with him.
Love it.
Nike has partnered up with him. And he goes out, and not only does he just give dope sneakers to people who need them, he lets them choose. So he brings like a couple pair in their size, and he lets them pick, which I
Love it.
think really kind of sets him aside from everything else, because it brings like a sense of dignity. You know what I mean? And all of his sneakers are super dope. Like, I want them, and you know how I am about sneakers.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of friends out there who are big in the sneaker game. You sell those kicks, and you should look into it, because they take donations. You can be involved. You can hand out. You can do all of that. So check them out. HavASole. And I just thought it just made me all teary and weird.
I love it. I'm looking for anything nowadays that shows compassion. I love it.
Yeah. And like, not only just compassion, like when you have like fresh sneakers on, like, nothing can stop you. It's like having your hair done. It's like, having fresh haircut, having fresh shoes. You just, like, I don't know, it puts a pep in your step. And I think that that's super important when you're helping somebody out. And especially if you got to choose them,
I
right? They
agree.
weren't just given to you. You got a choice in you had a choice in it. So
I love it.
I wanted to give a shout out to him, because I think he's doing amazing things. And, everybody go help. But let's get to our guest, because
Okay.
we're so excited. We're so excited. So most of you will know him from Foo Fighters. If you don't know already, he's got a new album out that is so good. I was listening to it all morning. It is
Me
so
too.
my jam. Yeah, he's so good. So please, please give it up for Chris Shiflett.
Hey, hey, hey.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited to
Yeah.
have you on. Like, you have no idea.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Oh my
So-
gosh, it's a thrill.
Yeah, so exciting. You're just like such a badass rock star. Like I said earlier, my daughter was like, she doesn't care about anything. She's 11, but she plays guitar. She cares. She cares
Ah,
about guitar. She cares
nice.
about music. And her ears perked up, and she was like, wait, what? So she's stoked on this too. So it's
Well,
really cute.
that's interesting. You know, I sort of forced all my kids to have to play guitar and piano when they were real little. And then I think because I'm a guitar player, you know, that's like what I do, that it maybe just didn't seem that cool to them, because it didn't seem to take with any of them. But then my youngest has now just come back around. He sort of didn't play for a couple of years, and he's sort of swung back around to it kind of recently, where he's been noodling around on his own, and then he'll come to me and he'll kind of like ask a couple of questions and stuff. But yeah, I'm always happy to hear when other people have kids that want to play, Because, you know, it's, you sort of think of like rock and roll and guitar playing and stuff is it's I don't want to call it a dying art, but it's definitely not in the mainstream the way it was when we were all growing up. You know what I mean? So it's all it takes is like one band. Maybe it'll be your daughter will be the one to be turn it all around.
You know, listen, her teacher is always telling her, like, start taking singing lessons, because first of all, she's adorable, right? Like, she's adorable, and she looks like a little skater kid. She skateboards too, and she's super feminine, but she's on that guitar, and she's like, nah, like, she's too cool for everything. And I just so I was gonna ask you if your kids played and if you taught them, because like my kids, they don't want anything to do with acting. Like, they're like, go away, enough of you, we've had it. But acting isn't as cool as guitar playing. So
I don't know. I mean, it's all cool stuff. Like my oldest just finished his first year in college. He's going to film school. Like, he wants to be a director. So I think that's rad, because it's creative, and it's, you know, it's like a similar kind of crazy dream to the crazy dream I had when I was the same age, you know. And so I'm just, you know how it is as a parent. You just want your kids to be into something, to have something that's like a burning desire, passion for them. Because I like, you know, that's how me and all my friends were when we were teenagers. We just wanted to play so bad. We just wanted to get a gig. We just wanted to go to LA and, you know, play at the Whiskey and, you know, just be in it. And so, you know, you just, whether or not it's music or directing or anything, you know, marine biology, who cares? You know what I mean? If your kids just kind of have a drive to want to do something, then as a dad, you're just happy.
You know, Chris, kind of curious about this is that I have a bunch of friends, and there's certain kids that get straight A's all the way through, and they get into Harvard, and they go to these you know, amazing schools. And I always ask, what is the one common denominator of kids that seem to advance through school? And they always say it's music. They say, get your kid to play a musical instrument. And, not knowing that I've asked that question to other parents, but they'll say, get your kid involved in the piano, the guitar, something. And they go, it's something that triggers your brain. Now, I'm sure as the dad, you're going to say, oh yeah, all my kids are smart. But did you notice that your kids had an easier time in school than, let's say, even friends?
I mean, I don't know. I've never exactly noticed that, but music is just math, really. It's sort of, it's exercising both parts of you, because there's, you know, if you're going to be a songwriter and all that sort of thing, there's the creative side of it, and it's taking that math and, you know, finding your own patterns and things. But it is just, at the end of the day, it's math. You know, it's just a bunch of numbers and calculations to make chords and scales and inversions and all that sort of stuff. But you know, nobody really thinks of it like that when you're doing it. But yeah, I mean, my kids are all good students, and definitely much better students than I was when I was their age. So yeah, I don't know, man. I dropped out of high school and never went to college. So you know, if playing music really made you a good student, I guess I don't know what went wrong with me, man.
Well, I think it's like where you apply it, right?
Right.
So,
yeah, sure.
like, both of my kids, my daughter, she played stand-up bass in orchestra, and her bass was Chester the Molester, and she got straight A's. My youngest, she plays guitar. She gets straight A's. My oldest had so many scholarships for college, and she didn't take them. She went to New York and just started working and didn't take the scholarship. She didn't want any debt. She didn't want to waste time. And so I think it's sort of like it just opens your mind. I think it's sort of like everything. I don't know. I have a theory about it. I do think that playing music and listening to good music does help you with your school.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I mean, my kids are all really into music. You know, they've been into music their whole lives and listen to it, you know, the way that I listen to it. I think I always thought, like, or I didn't always think this, but like when I grew up a little bit and got a little perspective on things, I sort of figured out, like, I think that, and I think this is probably true of a lot of musicians, like, I hear music different than I think casual music listeners do. Like, it hits me physically in a way that is like, I don't know. It's not a lightweight thing. It's like, it always like twisted my emotions in a way that I liked. And I think that's what drew me to it. But it was like, whether it was minor key and you're kind of sad and you put on something that just makes you more sad and you kind of wallow in it, or the opposite, and it's like real major key peppy and like you're happy and it's like driving. I don't know. I always think like that's like a big part of being a musician is you have this sort of like visceral connection to it.
When you listen
I
to
wanted
other
to
people,
ask you about damage control, because I was that kid that I'd go buy the album and or the tape cassette, whatever, and I would like pull out the lyrics. And I know a lot of people thinking lyrics are cool is lame, but for me, it's everything. It's all of it like encompassed. So for me, I would love, I'd sit there and read all the lyrics and listen to the music, and it was like an experience. And so I was listening to Damage Control all morning.
Oh, right on.
Completely transparent, because I love it. I think it's so good.
Thank you.
It is. It's so good. And I'm just like, I'm wondering, like, are you back in Santa Barbara? Are you just still tied to it? Because I feel like a lot of it is moving in that direction, or am I totally off?
It's funny. My wife always points out to me that I tend to just write about the same thing over and over. And so much of that is derived from like my, growing up in Santa Barbara. It's like a constant kind of reference point and touchstone for my songwriting, and sort of always has been. I mean, I've definitely gotten more into the lyrical side over the years. Certainly over my last few records, that's been more important to me as a songwriter to focus a little, to get that side of it, not just write lyrics as an afterthought because you have a song and a melody. It's like the lyrics kind of have to drive it for me nowadays. But that song in particular, it's the oldest song on the record. It's the only old one on it. I wrote that one like probably 15 years ago when I was like, in a really kind of different place and going through some shit, and it reflects that. All the other songs on the record were written in the, right before I made the record, or even in the middle of making the record. But so that one's got a different kind of lyrical bent to it. But I don't live in Santa Barbara now, but we have a place up there. We try to get up there as much as we can. It's the funny thing of, we raised our kids in LA. So my kids, it's like pulling teeth to get them to go up there. Cause it's not, they're teenage boys. It's like, they want to hang out with their friends on the weekend. They don't necessarily want to go hang out with mom and dad. And so there's that, but yeah, I'm still definitely tied to it. And someday we'll be back up there full time, but not just yet.
Chris, when did you realize?
Because sorry.
I'm just curious on the art part. When did you realize you had the ability to even write a song? Like, honestly, you could put me locked away for 20 years. I couldn't come up with a song. I don't have your ability. And I'm always curious to know about the process of how songs come to you and how quickly you're able to put them to where you want them to be. And at a time, do they drag? And then it takes years to put them together. How hard is the process?
It's a great question, because honestly, like, I came to it later than most of my friends. Like, when I was in high school and playing in bands, I wrote a few songs and they were terrible. And like, you kind of have to go through that as a songwriter. I think, it's probably pretty rare that your first stab at it's going to be any good. And so I think I was just really self-conscious. Like, I could always play guitar a little bit, but like, I was writing these just terrible songs, about goofy nonsense that I didn't know anything about, trying to write like Motley Crue lyrics or something. I was like 14. It just didn't make any sense. And I remember in particular, like, my buddy Grant that I was in a band with, like, found some lyrics in my guitar case and was like, what the fuck is this? And started reading them aloud to everybody in the room. And I was just like, mortified. So I think that, like, when I look back, I'm like, I didn't write another song till like my late 20s, I think, and I always had ideas and I just didn't have any follow through. And I just sort of got in bands because I could play guitar, and I would always be like more in a support role in whatever band I was in. But it was when I was like, in the latter part of the 90s is when I really started to try to really woodshed my own ideas. And that led to me putting a band together called Jackson United. And then that did that for a couple records. And then I had a band called the Dead Peasants that I did for a couple records. And then I just started making records under my own name. but I think a big part, it's an interesting question, because I've done this podcast for years called Walking the Floor that I'm not really doing right now, because I'm been working on this other one called Shred with Shifty. But on Walking the Floor, I would talk to other songwriters a lot about their songwriting. Like, that was a big part of the focus. And the reality is, nobody can really explain how they do it. It's like a little bit different for everybody, but there is, I think, one of the big parts of it is just having the discipline to actually do it and then put it out in the world. And I tell you, man, like, that's like, just actually finishing a song is like maybe the most important part of writing a song. You have to just sit down and commit, like, this is the verse and the chorus and the middle 8, and then we're close it out, and then you go out and play your songs live in front of rooms full of people, and then you can kind of see real quick what people connect to and don't. But yeah, I mean, songwriting for me has changed a lot over the years. I revise a lot more. I like to go into a recording session with a song fully written, and then evolve it in the studio with whoever you're recording with, and change things around. But yeah, it's a bit of a mystery, and like, it's a funny thing, because nothing feels better than writing a song, but it's probably the thing that I procrastinate the most. I pretty much play guitar all the time, and I'm always kind of doing something, but and always like recording little ideas into my phone. But then it's almost like it starts to build and nag you, like, oh fuck, I got like 85 ideas on my phone. I have to go sift through and figure out, what I don't know. It starts to feel like homework, and you put it off and you put it off, and then when you actually sit down and periodically sort of go through your ideas and turn them into something, you're like, I need to do this every day. It's the best feeling. Why don't I? I don't know. It's weird.
But writing, don't you feel like writing is one of those things? Because I write, but it's in private and nobody will ever read it. But writing is one of those things where
that's what you think.
Be in the moment. Yeah, I'm gonna burn it all. I'm gonna shred it all. But you have to be like in the moment. Like, you just like it's either flowing out of you or it's not. So like, I think that's where that writer's block thing is such a real deal, because you can't force like that's just a creativity I don't think you can force. I'm just saying.
Well, there's something, I have a lot of friends out in Nashville that are songwriters that write all day, every day, that are Monday through Friday are doing writing sessions, 3 sessions a day or sometimes. And I'm just blown away. And I always ask them, like, how do you turn it on? Like, over and over all day long, like, based on an appointment. And, a lot of them will tell me, well, sometimes you come out of those rooms without anything, you just kind of sit there staring at each other for a few hours, and you don't really come up with much. But most of the time, those folks do. And I think there is something to having your writing muscles be strong, when you are doing something all the time. I know for me, when I'm writing a lot, you just almost like have like a breakthrough where it just starts to flow and feel easier, and you're not thinking about it. Because it's those ideas that, I'm sure everybody has them, like an idea where you have a couple of lines and there's something there, but you just work on it, and nothing comes. And those songs for me never work out. They just always kind of stagnate and die. It's like, it's the ones where it just kind of pops out of you, and you're just kind of like writing it on the page as fast. And then you go back and revise and tweak and change. But it's, getting that initial thing out. There's something to it, those are the songs you play them live in a bar, and it gets people tapping their toes. And the one that it took you 3 years to finish never seems to go over, I don't know. There's something in them.
For me, the coolest thing what you do, Chris, is that your art becomes part of other people's lives, their memories, their feelings. When they hear your music, it will take them back to a moment, good or bad, that will, it triggers in the mind. And what I'm always jealous of people that can do what you do, because it's an amazing skill, is that when you find that song that connects with people, it kind of makes it so you live forever. Your art lives forever, and it's just an amazing talent.
And you don't, it is an interesting thing about music. Like, you don't get to pick and choose how people interpret your songs, and you don't get to pick and choose what it means to them. And yeah, you're right. I mean, it's like, there's songs that certainly in Foo Fighters, songs that people get married to, and or get divorced to, or whatever, and it takes on a deeper meaning, for them.
Wait, I have a question. So did you go to Nashville and that sort of like started influencing like your country music? Because I know you play a little bit country, or were you loving country and then it took you to Nashville? Like, how did that work out?
Yeah. Well, I really it's it's kind of a long tail, but I really got into like alt country back in like the 90s, through one of my bandmates at the time. This guy, Tony Sly, was really into all that stuff and turned me on to it. And prior to that, I liked, of course I knew who like Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson, people like that were, and knew some of their music, but I wasn't into it. And all that alt country stuff kind of led me back into a lot of the older country music. And then there was this whole like burgeoning Americana scene coming up, sort of in the wake of all that 90s stuff. And I just loved a lot of those bands and started this podcast called Walking the Floor that was pretty much focused on that stuff. And at the same time, I was beginning to make records with this Chris Shiflett and the Dead Peasants thing that was leaned a little more Americana. And then we did like a classic kind of like honky tonk covers record. And just getting more and more into it. And through my podcast, really started meeting a bunch of people. And it is when you play with people and you start to get to know people in that scene. And then, it's like that thing of like, oh, if you love, Buck Owens, you got to check out this other thing. And, people start recommending different music to you. And
no, Chris, we are not as cool as you. All I have is Spotify.
Yeah, I'm gonna make you a playlist. I have a bunch of playlists I can say.
That would be
I
cool.
would appreciate that. Yes.
Yeah, it just little by little you get deeper and deeper into it, and you start to, and through my podcast, I started to get to know people that more in the kind of current country music world and Americana world and all that stuff, and I don't know, it's just musically that's in a big way where my interests just kind of went, over the years. I love the songs. I love the guitar playing. It's great. Like I came of age, I would say at a time when like guitar playing, the kind of guitar playing that I connected to my whole life suddenly got like really out of fashion, in the 90s. And, but it never went out of fashion in country music, so that's part of the draw.
Are you one of those people
country. My dad was like a big country and Western, and we listened to 8-tracks in his GMC truck headed up to like Mammoth, listening to like Willie Nelson. And so I just, I have a deep appreciation for it too.
Chris, are you one of those people that loves to listen to other people's art? I mean, obviously, as an artist, when you mentioned Nashville, I lived there for 9 years, was just there a couple weeks ago.
Oh, really?
And when you walk down Broadway, each bar has like 3 levels, and there's new music on every level, but you're just going down the street and you're hearing so much music. Are you one of those people that love it, that people are just appreciating the fact that it's all kinds of music, or is there something that you gravitate to and say, boy, that's good, or do you even get critical and go, you know what, that's just lazy? Do you have what kind of ear do you have as an artist?
I think, I know for me, the older I've gotten, I just set aside any like genre baggage that I ever had. When I was a kid, I was like, you have to listen to Kiss and Black Sabbath and that's it, or whatever. And then, but I know I just like whatever I like, I mean, there's, if I'm being honest, like, I'm sort of more drawn to just guitar music, ultimately rock and roll, country music, whatever. But that is one of the great things about having kids, man. I know more about modern hip hop than I ever thought I would. They turn me on to all kinds of stuff. And a lot of it, like, it's not necessarily the music that I'm drawn to, but I dig it and it's cool and I can appreciate it and understand the appeal, for sure. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm a hip hop fan. My kids are not. So it's super funny because
Oh, wow.
It's sort of like
you got
the
opposite.
reversal. Yeah, in the car, there's always the hitting of the button of the station change. But,
Well, it's an interesting thing. Like I was talking about, I just started this new podcast show called Shred with Shifty that's really guitar focused. And whereas my old one was was mostly focused on country and Americana stuff. Like I intentionally have set out to not be genre specific. I want it to be kind of all over the shop. But it's this first season is it's a lot of rock and roll and a lot of country music, because that's just mostly what I know. I was just having that conversation with my producer this morning, like, we need to get a good jazz player on there. We need to get a good blues player on there. We need like, who's like the go-to, guitar player in pop music, that I don't know. And so that's kind of the fun of that is just stretching out and getting to get turned on to stuff you didn't, that's just not in my wheelhouse.
Yeah, for sure. Can you tell us where to find, because you're both of you have two podcasts, which is like, I don't know how you do that.
Well, one's on hiatus. Walking the Floor is like on hiatus. I don't even know if I'm going to go back to that. This new one is like taking over my whole life. It's when you add video, let me tell you, I don't know if you guys use the video from this or not, but
we do.
When you add video into it, especially with the way that we're doing it, it adds a whole nother layer of editing and workload that is insane, man.
Well, you know what?
But it's been great.
I like
it's been really
fun with your latest video too. I like how you did that. That was super smart to have the audience shoot it, right? Like that was so smart.
That's kind of how you check if you had how it sounded the night before, is you just look on Instagram. You're like, it sounds, and people film it and post it, and you can tell like whether or not it sounded good in the room. And we were over in the UK doing shows, and we were just watching footage back every, the morning after every show. And I was like, we gotta do something with all this. Is so rad, Then you get your fans involved, and they got skin in the game, and I was stoked when we put it out, because like all the comments were like, I see my footage, so it's like, then they're a part of it, It's cool.
Yeah, no, I love that. It's so like, it's so 2023. Like, it's just, I just love all that stuff,
Totally. Yeah.
People do. They love to be a part of it. They love the involvement. And listen,
it captures the vibe in the room too. When you see people out there, like with their woo, that's what it feels like when you're there. It's a good time.
100%. Because these artists, you guys can spend millions of dollars on a production of a video. But what's really going to trend is the people in the audience recording the live concert. Like that's what's really what everybody's going to watch.
Yeah.
Today.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's people are so overloaded with content these days that it's really hard to break through. I've been really, we put out the first episode of that Shredder with Shifty show like a week ago. And I've been really happy to see, because you don't know, when you're making these things, you don't know if anybody's going to watch or care, and it's been well received, and we're stoked. We had a bunch of interviews in the can. People can find it. The first few episodes at least are going to be on the Premier Guitar YouTube channel. Beyond that, I think it's going to live, the video content's going to live on volume.com/shifty is the platform. And then there's a podcast version too, but you can find it anywhere, but you're going to want to watch it, because it's all about seeing, guitar players' hands.
My daughter is going to want to know all about it. Yep.
I tell you what, I was just editing the next episode that we're putting up, and I don't know when you're putting this episode up, but the next episode we're going to put up my interview with Rivers from Weezer. It was super cool. And then the episode after that, I just finished editing this morning before I came over here, and it's a woman named Lindsay L. And if your daughter hasn't heard of her, she should, because she is a fantastic guitar player. Lives out in Nashville. She's Canadian, but she lives in Nashville, and she's a Strat specialist, and she's really good. Lindsay L.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Chris, I'm curious, as you were younger with your friends, and you talked about how great it would be to make it and one day play at the Whiskey. Obviously, life has taken either bigger venues. You're going to go on tour again, and I mean, you know what it's like to play in front of people that just absolutely love you and can't wait to see you in person. Do you have a pinch yourself moment where you went, "Wow, I'm doing this," and did not see this coming from the time I was first picked up a guitar?
Oh man, that's like, where do you begin? There's been so many. I mean, I honestly, like my first Foo Fighters show ever. I mean, even before that, like just getting an audition for them, back when I did. And then, I'll never forget the way it felt like to get the phone call the next day from Dave and Taylor saying, "Hey, you got the gig, go pack up your stuff. We're leaving for tour and you're going to be gone for a while." And they weren't kidding, it's like 26 years later or whatever it's been and still going. But, yeah, there's been so many. I mean, getting to play all the sort of iconic venues that you grew up fantasizing about, getting to play the Forum. Like we've played the Forum so many times that like, if you had told me when I was like a kid, because I was going to see like Quiet Riot and bands like that at the Forum, Motley Crue or whatever, that someday I would like, get to play there so much that it became like normal. I never would have believed you. Like that to me is like, places like that, the Madison Square Garden, Wembley, all those kind of things. You just, you can't believe getting to back up Mick Jagger was maybe the greatest thing that's ever happened to me personally. Or getting to play with Paul McCartney was amazing. I mean, there's just so many. We're blessed to have gotten to do this as long as we have, and with all the different crazy gigs.
What's crazier, like being backstage at those venues or being on stage at those venues?
Ooh, I tell you, I think one of the first times we played the Forum, it was years after the Lakers weren't playing there anymore, but there was still like Lakers stuff kind of discarded. It was before they redid the Forum, because at a certain point they redid it and like fixed it all up and modernized it. But yeah, I remember there was like a Lakers briefcase with the logo on it. You're just like, whoa, that's fucking rad. Whose was that? Yeah. Is this Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's Anvil Road case right here? What is he keeping there? Yeah. But I'd have to go with being on stage. Yeah, definitely.
That's so cool.
I tell you, you talk pinch me moments. One time Dave had his birthday party at the Forum a few years ago, and he got all these people, all these special guests to come play, and we were sound checking with Paul Stanley from Kiss, and to get to play, and then he came out and did a couple Kiss songs at the show that night. But to get to play the Forum, where they recorded Kiss Alive 2 with Paul Stanley, and to play Detroit Rock City, I mean that's I could have just fallen over and died the next day and been like, yeah, it was great. Good life. Thanks.
I lived a life.
Yeah.
That's so amazing. You're such a good guy. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, because
it's all an act. It's showbiz. Showbiz.
Is it? I don't think so. I don't think you can fake the goodness.
Well, thank you guys for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
Chris, thank you so much for the time. That was a blast for us.
Awesome.
I know.
Yeah, right on. Take care, you guys.
And you're going on tour, right? Like, are you headed to the road? Like, you're going way around the world, huh?
Yeah, we got a lot of shows stretching out. I don't know exactly what's announced and what's not announced, but I know we're going to be on the road for quite a while. And we're leaving next week to go over to Japan. And we're kind of bopping around, doing a bunch of stuff in the States, doing some stuff in South America, and Australia later in the year, and then a bunch of stuff next year that I don't think is announced yet, but we're gonna be busy, and then shoehorning some gigs of my own here and there along the way. Like I'm doing some shows around the West Coast in August, and this and that here and there, and yeah, it's a bunch. It's a lot. It's good.
Well,
it's better than like sitting at home twiddling your thumbs. That's for sure.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Lost at Sea is the album.
Yeah.
And the podcast, one more time where we can find it.
Shred with Shifty. And you either get it at volume.com/Shifty, or you can go to Premier Guitar's YouTube channel and you can find it.
And Google's your best friend. Google it.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. Perfect.
You're the best.
Awesome, you guys. Thank you so much.
Travels. Have so much fun.
Take care.
Take care, Chris. That was crazy. That was pretty cool. I mean, that was a lot of fun. And again, as you said, he's a really good guy. He is a really good guy. I thought it was very funny that, you and I didn't talk about it, but we both listened to the same thing, basically before the show nonstop. And very, very talented guy, very, very nice guy. I always like, for me, Nicole, when I meet people that, you see or you hear all the time, that they turn out to be good guys. I think there's almost nothing more heartbreaking as a fan when you find out they
Yeah.
aren't nice guys, and then you find out
Little
they're actually good
douchebag.
people. Yeah, because I don't know. I've always been that person. You root for good things to happen to good people. And then when you find out it's someone that, everybody loves, and then they aren't a nice person, it's so disheartening, because you almost want to tell the world that's a phony. But this guy's the real deal. I mean,
Well, and also he's a
coolest to
surfer,
be.
and I don't mean to categorize people, but I am a Southern Cal, girl, so I'm gonna go there. He surfs. He's from Santa Barbara. He's from Southern California. Like, he's super chill. Yeah, yeah, I knew immediately because we have a lot of mutual friends. And I knew he was gonna be a good guy, but he's super talented.
Yes.
He's
Yes.
super talented. And you know what I wanted to ask him? I forgot to ask him is like, because sometimes, like, for me in the industry, like, producing has been this sort of like relief because I don't have to be on camera, right? It's not me on camera. It's not me as the talent. It's me like pushing things for other things, not myself. It's not me selling myself. So I wanted to ask him, and I forgot. I'm so annoyed right now. The difference between being like the lead guitarist and Foo Fighters, which, listen, a lot of attention is on you, but like when you are the lead vocalist and the lead guitarist, like, what is that like?
Yeah,
And he's
no
good
kidding.
at it. He's
Yeah, well,
good at it.
no kidding. Well, if he wasn't good at it, he wouldn't be with, right, Mick Jagger and Paul McCartney and Dave Grohl. And
Facts.
I mean, what a skill that he has. You know what I kept thinking of? I kept thinking about you with your daughters, how you always say your kids couldn't care less about your career in the past or anything you've ever done. And having three kids, is there any point when you're his kids that you go, hey, what my dad does is pretty cool? Or are
Well,
they just
like
like,
you
it's just
said,
my
he
dad?
said they don't give a
It's
shit.
my
They don't
dad.
give a shit. The youngest one finally is coming around and like wanting to play.
But
So,
do you say that as a
that's like,
kid just because you don't want to give your parents too much credit, or do you, in your mind, you're going, "All right, this is what my dad does is awesome."
I mean, I think this is a what stage are you at in your life? This is
That's
not
true.
like
That's a good point.
growing up, they're just your parents. All you want is your parents. You don't care about anything else, right? And then as you grow up, you maybe appreciate some things. That's,
Exactly.
yeah,
No, I got you. God, that was cool. That was cool.
yeah. He is
Um,
super cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I loved it. By the way, one of the things I thought was awesome, and I know he's played all over the world, and he mentioned some great venues. But for me, when I was born in LA, but then I moved away and then moved back to LA. When I first went back to LA, I used to go to concerts at the Forum. Well, the Forum at the time was
Oh,
shared
yeah.
by the LA Lakers and the Kings, and then they redid it around 2013, 2014, somewhere in there, and they made it basically, it's just a great music venue now. They don't play
Yeah.
sports in there anymore, and it sounds so much better than it even used to. And I love the fact that that's still a place that comes to mind of for people in Los Angeles who know, man, there's nothing like going to the Forum.
The
And that was
Forum.
cool
And,
that he still
it's
loves
so
it.
small when you look at it in comparison, like, that always trips me out about the Forum because it used to be so big, right? Like, that was the
Yeah,
biggest venue, and then now you go look and, like, in comparison, it's so small, but
true.
it's iconic. It's the spot.
Absolutely, no, really, really cool. All right, so Nicole, what we're gonna do is we're gonna get to your mailbag, okay?
Okay.
And we're gonna move forward because in this mailbag, which I get tons of stuff, and again, we appreciate you sending stuff in. Again, it's right there in Nicole's mailbag on the website, perfectlytwistedpod.com. This one was a little bit different, and every question is going to come from this one person, because I don't think
Okay.
I've ever read a submission in a mailbag with more enthusiasm than this one.
Okay.
And that's
Uh-oh.
no, it's not an insult to her, and at the same time, not an insult to anyone else, but you can tell by the way she wrote that she is all in on excitement for you, that you're doing this show, and that you basically given her a chance to ask you questions. So I love it. I think
Good.
it's
I
great.
love hearing from the ladies. I would love to hear more from the ladies. Let's go.
Absolutely. All right, here we go. This one's from they're all from Christy Taylor. Okay. And first question is, Nicole, I love, and I mean I love your holiday movies. All right. I've even watched Switch and A Christmas Proposal more times than I can count, and throughout the year, not just at Christmas time. I know you touched on film and holiday switch in one of the first episodes of the podcast, but I'd love to hear more details about filming both movies, details of your co-stars, locations, any interesting behind the scenes stuff would be appreciated.
Oh, okay.
That's a lot. And that's only question one.
That's a loaded question. Okay. So holiday switch, it was funny. I was really going through something in my life, and I got the call if I wanted to be part of the project, and it was shooting in Winnipeg, Canada. And I really needed to get out of here and change some things. And what better way than to just throw yourself into work, right? So I did, and it just was such a fun storyline, such a fun script, such a fun director, production, the whole thing. Winnipeg is such a charming city. If you ever get a chance to get out there, just adorable. And, it was covered in snow, and it looked like, I don't know, it looked like something out of a postcard, honestly. Like, people had their front yards decorated because it was around the holidays, and it just was like, where am I? Is this like for real? And it's exactly what my soul needed. And so I think it kind of showed through the acting in that for me, is that I just was like so happy to be there. Such a great cast. And then, the total opposite of that is the other one. And it's shot in LA. It was hot as balls. We were in like thick jackets with fake snow coming down. Not that it wasn't fun, because it was, but just not the same experience, like totally, totally different. But I mean, both great, but Holiday Switch is very special to me. It's just for so many reasons. It's a very special project for me. And so I love it. I love it when people like it, and the ridiculousness of it, because if you don't know, the character of mine is just completely stressed out and, doing too much, and hits her head on while she's doing laundry, and thinks she goes through the dryer, and she teleports into a whole nother world and into a whole nother life. It's like grass is greener kind of tale.
Of course.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you mentioned the heat, though. I think I've told you this before. These holiday movies is all that's on our television when they start up, and my wife has them going nonstop. And I'll walk in and out of the room, and I get so frustrated when you're doing a winter scene and you don't see the person's breath because it's supposed to be cold outside. And I'm like, this is filmed in June. This drives me crazy. How do you watch this crap? And she's like, what do you mean? Just leave the room. And she goes, I love every minute of it. And they just start over again and get out of here. They never stop in our house. And the TV never goes off. For months, they just go and go, and it's our favorite thing. So I love that.
No, Holiday Switch, we were for real freezing. Like, there was a scene we had to stop because my chin was like frozen, and my mouth wasn't like working properly anymore. Like, we were stuck in there. The director's like, "You look weird." I was like, "Well, I feel weird," and I was like frozen, and I couldn't talk, so we had to like take a little moment. But yeah, that was for real.
Oh my God. All right, here we go. Question 2 from Christy. To go along with my first question, could you try and get some of your co-stars from Holiday Switch and Christmas Proposal as guests on the podcast? I'd love to hear from them all.
Yes, that's not a bad idea. You know who I love? Who comes to my mind right away is Brett. Brett, who in a Holiday Switch, he's the best guy. He's such a good guy. I'm going to reach out to him. Christy, okay. I'm going to call Brett. I'm going to see what he's doing.
I should probably just bail out and let my wife just sit here. So her and Christy can sit there and just pepper you with questions.
I'm going to call Brett. I bet he'll do it. And he's just such a fun energy. He's such a good guy. Okay. Yes. Great idea. Yay, Christy.
There you go, Christy. There you go. All right. Question number 3. I absolutely love hearing your podcast, product recommendations. I'm trying to read these questions without the glasses, Nicole. I don't look as good with the glasses as you do.
Why?
So
Just wear your
I
glasses.
okay.
Why?
So I got a thing. I'll wear glasses without a hat, but usually with a hat and the glasses, I don't like the way I look. So,
It's too
but
much.
I could,
Oh,
I don't know.
you
I'm just
need
not
to
a fan of the
see.
way I look. I know, but you can tell I'm butchering it. So here we go. I absolutely love hearing your product recommendations. Could you please add a section of the website that lists the products? I'm often walking or driving and listening to the podcast. And I'm unable to write down the products, and sometimes I don't catch the product name. Thanks for consideration. That's a great idea right there.
Ooh, well, that's interesting. Okay, so Christy, I thought I was hashtagging and adding the the at. I thought I was doing that with the products. So maybe that's a social media thing. If you
We'll
check
we'll
out our
create a
social
section for you. We will create a. So you
we'll
are
create
hashtagging and tagging, but we'll
I
do
am
a
doing
special
that. So if
list.
you check us out on social media, it's there. I swear, I promise. If not, so what are you saying? We can add something to the cast?
We can do a whole nother section just for on the website, just for this exact moment. So people just want to click and go all the way down.
Okay, great idea. Great suggestion.
They-
Listen, Christy,
I know.
do you need a job?
No kidding. No kidding. Here we go. All right, here we go. Question number 4. What affordable clothing brands are your favorites? What do you find most flattering in your 50s? I'm so about comfort. I would also like to look put together. I would love some advice.
Okay. Well, Christy, all I do is ask my kids for advice. First of all, I shop vintage. I'm a vintage person. So it's totally affordable. You can get really good brand names. You can get like old school cool stuff. I happen to live near an area that has a lot of really cool vintage shops on it. My daughter's in fashion, so we are all about reuse, recycle in this house. We don't use plastic. We try to redo everything. We buy used everything we can. So for me, what I love is just going and finding cool blouses. And right now I'm obviously in the market for shorts because it's hot AF
It is
out
hot.
here. Yeah. So I just kind of do that, and it's way more affordable. It's helping the planet. And I know that that sounds so cliche, but it's my honest answer. And it's the only way I can afford to like keep shopping every week. And I feel good about it. I don't feel bad. So I mean, we hit up Goodwill. I'm not kidding. There's a huge one right down the street from us. I hit up all our local like true vintage shops on Magnolia Boulevard. There's one called Chance that is amazing. There's the Trading Post, so dope. And my kids too, they like it all too. So we buy vintage everything we can, and it's kind of a matter of trying it on and does it feel good? Are you comfortable? Like, is it cute? Does it make you happy? And that's where you have to go with fashion. You can't think about like trying to fit in. You can't think about like, is this cool? It's about like, does this make me happy? Do I look cute? Do I feel cute? And we kind of go from there.
Unless you had COVID, in 2020, I don't think people were ever more comfortable than just being in the house and wearing exactly what they wanted to wear, knowing no one was going to see them. Right? I mean, how many people are walking around with sweats on and hoodies and just
Oh,
felt
I
great?
mean, going to the market in your pajamas is fully acceptable, right? Like pajamas and slippers is fully acceptable. I think finally that's phasing out, but that has been a thing. And sometimes I have to, before I leave the house, I go, wait, stop. What shoes do I have on? Because it might be my slippers and I'm ready to like walk out there. But yes, and being comfortable is completely acceptable. Like it should be part of the whole thing. So you just take it from there. Like you just try on things. It's like, is it cute? Is it fun? Do I feel good? How does this make me feel? And you work from it from there, and you can't care about what other people are going to think. And is it on trend and all that stuff? Because you gotta stylize yourself, not be a follower, in my opinion.
It's funny. I was asking my mother this question a week ago because I'm a big baseball fan. I said, Mom, whenever I look at old video, black and white video of baseball games, and Nicole mentioned it's summertime and it is hot as can be in California. If you go to the Midwest, anywhere, the humidity's, crazy with the heat. I said, every time I look at clips of people in the stands, all the men are wearing full wool suits, like with vests and everything in this heat. Nobody dressed the way, you and I dress casually. They all had to wear suits to the game, just sit in the sun. And I
Yeah.
said, how
Ooh.
uncomfortable and how hot was it? And I said, didn't people smell bad? And she said, people smelled terrible back then. She said,
Yeah.
not only through the sweat, the body odor, but she said everybody smoked also. She said the smell of people was brutal on buses or subways. And she said, you're just looking at the pictures. You can't imagine how bad people used to smell. How crazy is that? Like, I never even thought about that. Yeah. I never even thought about
I do
that.
because see, like we don't use deodorant. I don't raise my girls to use deodorant. It's just such a toxin and it's so bad for women and men, honestly. It's like the leading cause of breast cancer. So we don't use it. So we're always on the hunt for like what's the latest, greatest. That'll be my next product. That'll be my next. I'll bring that up on what I use. I finally found something. I'm like, because I'm a sweater, like I'm a sweaty gal. So I'll admit it. I'm super sweaty. So I need like something that actually really works. Like for like Keegan's never put anything aluminum in on her body. So and neither I don't think Dylan has either. We don't use it. So
I remember the health food stores or the health stores used to have those like rocks. Remember? I don't know.
I love that.
Do the rocks
that is
work?
They do the crystal.
Okay.
It just that the problem with the crystals, it would sting a bit when after you shaved. For me, it would sting. But the crystal, honestly, is the best natural thing I have found. And then we've tried them all. We've tried everything, and I found something else now. I'll bring it next week, and totally affordable. And I use it. We use it. My daughter, my oldest, I said, you got to try this. It's amazing because she's into natural deodorant too. And she finally, a couple months later, was like, oh my God, I have to buy stock in this company. She's like, I'm like pouring it in my hands. I'm putting it all over my body. And I'm like, I told you. So there's no reason to put that stuff on your body, ladies and gentlemen. Quit using it. And do you know if you want to make the switch from using deodorant, antiperspirant to using natural, you have to detox for at least 7 weeks?
Oh my gosh.
Think about that. Think about that for a second. 7 weeks? That's how much it's in your body.
System.
It's bad.
Wow. Yeah, there used to be a theory, and I'm just going to say theory just to protect myself from getting sued, that aluminum, because if you look at deodorant, the number one ingredient is aluminum. It's the first thing on there.
Yeah.
That it could lead to Alzheimer's. And so again, that just a theory out there. I have a theory too. I always thought, Nicole, because testicle cancer of men under the age of 30 and breast cancer women, between 40 and 70, it's extremely high. My theory is always men's hands cause cancer. That's think about where men's hands are trying to get to the most. I would say it's men's hands are what's causing those cancer problems. So that's just my theory too.
What's on your hands?
Just guys in general, just not very good.
Hysterical.
All right, last question. We'll get out of here. What is your favorite 70s or 80s show to go back and watch?
Oh, well, listen, I'm going to take it back a little bit further because I Love Lucy is my jam. I Love Lucy was my everything. Laverne and Shirley, I Love Lucy. I mean, I don't know if it gets any better than that.
I told you the show I fell in love with that I missed out on, and I was just too young. So are you. The Mary Tyler Moore Show. I was shocked how good the writing
I watched
was.
Mary Tyler. Oh no, Mary Tyler Moore Show. Are you kidding? Obsessed. Watched it all the time.
I just discovered it when she passed.
Rhoda.
Yeah.
Rhoda. Mary Tyler Moore. Those were so good. But then if you want to talk more 70s, 80s, it's like I love the Love Boat. Fantasy Island was everything. Love Boat was everything.
I was a Family Ties guy too. I was like Family Ties.
Family Ties. See, I was working a lot in that era, so I wasn't getting a lot of TV time.
I always heard Michael J. Fox drove a Ferrari, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, "What? Michael J. Fox drives a Ferrari?" I thought that was crazy to me. Michael Keaton.
What a good guy.
Not Michael Keaton.
Guys,
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Alex Keaton. Yeah, that was so funny. Yeah, that was around the time you were doing TV at the same time. So you're right.
Yeah, I
You're
was
so
working.
busy,
And
you weren't
listen,
watching a lot of TV.
no, and in our house in those days, there was one TV, no remote. It was like a dial thing. Like I was not getting the choice of the channel.
Yeah.
There was mom and dad that come first. There was no way I was getting like what I wanted to watch. So it was whatever mom was watching. But luckily she watched good shows.
There you go. There you go.
Oh,
That
you know what I
was.
loved was
Go ahead.
Johnny Carson. Johnny Carson. I was a huge Johnny Carson fan.
Were you ever a guest on that show? Were you ever a guest on like the late night shows?
I did. Yeah, I've done a few. Mm-hmm.
Do you like it?
I
Do you
have done a
like?
few.
Or, I know it goes super fast. It's not like what we just did with Chris, where it's long form. But is
Yeah, I mean, I was
is it
really
enjoyable?
super nervous. I was like a nervous wreck because I just was a nervous wreck in life in general. So to be like on live TV was even like my palms were sweating even more. But yeah, great. What a great format. What a great like I love it. And I love watching late night talk shows too. So
Perfect. Yeah, me
yeah,
too. Me too. Big
we love
fan.
them, right? Yeah, they're so good.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun today. I had a great time.
I know. I know. And thanks again, Chris. Thank you for being on our show because yeah, love it. Love a Southern California boy.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. So again, we want everyone to subscribe, right? We appreciate everybody
Yes.
listening.
Subscribe, leave a review, leave a rating. Love us, hate us. We'll take it. Check us out. perfectlytwistedpodcast.com. You can check us out on YouTube, anywhere you get your podcasts. Just hit that subscribe and you can give us those 5 stars. We won't be mad.
Not at all. Not at all.
Not at all. Thanks,
All right,
guys.
Nicole,
Thanks
we'll
for
see you next
joining
time.
us. Yes. See you next week.